Hi guys, I would just like to mention that I'm sorry that I was gone for 2 months. I was dealing with a lot of mental health stuff, so I tried to get this video out as soon as I possibly could. So, yeah, please enjoy the video. I spent a long time editing, and, yeah. Hey everybody, certainly not Jason here. So in previous videos I've covered the Saiyan arc and the Namek arc. So with the Namek arc wrapped up for this Dragon Ball series review, we're moving to one of my personal favorite arcs in the Z franchise and for the Dragon Ball community as a whole, the Cell arc. Now this arc is known for probably being the most recognizable arc in the series and is known for its big character development for a lot of characters, and even intense fights between major characters, and this is even the first time we even see Super Saiyan 2. So let's get into one hell of a ride and prepare ourselves for my first probably hour-long video. Get ready for the one, the only, Cell arc. Now Toriyama has gotten his inspiration for Dragon Ball from stories like Journey to the West and Astro Boy, but mostly Toriyama himself has taken inspiration from Western media. And for this glorious arc, he decided to take his inspiration from the 1991 film Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Yep, that's right, Toriyama, the legend himself, took inspiration from Terminator 2 and took the whole killer androids destroying the future, and took it in his genius mind and turned it into something original. Now I've mentioned before in the beginning of this video that this would probably be my first hour-long video. Well, that's because instead of just telling you the whole plot of the arc and having this video only be around 6 to 10 minutes long, I will decide to break the video into its own little segments, so the chapters for this video will be in the description, or in the video, or whatever. But another thing I would like to mention before I get into the video is that during the writing of this script for this video, I'm currently rereading the Cell arc so I can give a better understanding of the arc, instead of just telling you what it's about and what the main plot is. But without any interruptions, here's the ultimate Cell arc review. Now rereading this part of the franchise just basically felt like eating a senzu bean. It kind of felt like I was opening to a fresh start, like I've never even read Dragon Ball before. A standpoint to the beginning of the arc that I thought was really intriguing for me was the structure of how the arc was put together. Unlike the past two arcs that I've covered on this channel, they're both very different from the Cell arc. Well, I mean obviously, but I mean it's just how it's put together as a whole. For example, the Saiyan arc. The Saiyans show up, they fight, and Goku shows up and wins. But that was different for the Cell arc. I mean, yeah, androids show up, but Cell emerging was just really surprising for me when I had watched Z Kai. I had no idea why there was an oddly shaped bug dude when they were supposed to be fighting androids. But anyway, back to the topic. The arrival of Trunks is amusing for me, and probably for the entire franchise too. How Toriyama introduced Trunks was extraordinary. I mean, a year after Namek exploded and Frieza coming back, and guess what? Nobody knows where Goku's at all. Trunks' appearance with that badass denim jacket, and especially his information about the future, immediately can catch the audience's attention. I personally had thought it was a nice twist to the story that left us pondering the question in our heads on how he knows the Z Fighters. Now, the reveal of Trunks as the son of Bulma and Vegeta was just mind-blowing for 10-year-old me. And whether you know it or not, this literally put the whole aspect of timelines in the Dragon Ball series to be so confusing, and I fucking hate it. But all jokes aside for now, this really made the whole bigger for the connections between the future and the past, here showing scenes of growth of characters in very unexpected ways. Trunks' arrival will always resonate with fans truly, and like I've said before, put the role of time travel to be yet confusing, but would be important later on for the rest of Dragon Ball. Android 19 and 20's arrival probably has to be one of the most pivotal moments in the entire franchise, which actually technically starts the beginning of the Android and Cell saga. What makes these androids very different from previous villains like Frieza and Vegeta, for example, is that the androids were not technically tied to the Z Fighters in any way possible. Well, besides Dr. Gero, who was watching Goku before even Z occurred. Dr. Gero, formerly a member of the Red Ribbon Army, has literally been planning for years to create the ultimate androids that are capable of defeating the Z Fighters and Goku. The introduction to the androids adds a very intriguing feeling to the series. They're not even alien invaders or anyone that even hates Goku's guts. Their plan is simple: just defeat Son Goku. The confrontation with the androids is just brutal. The Z Fighters realize that they are facing foes that are different from the ones they fought previously. Piccolo and Goku, who had become increasingly powerful since the Saint Saga, are left shocked by the insane androids' power. Android 19's energy absorption and Android 20's very high intelligence make these two highly dangerous. Until Vegeta kills Android 19 after showing off his new Super Saiyan transformation. But like I've said previously, the androids are incredibly different from what other villains we've been shown before, not relying on strength, but on more strategic acts of their powers, like the energy absorption. The arrival of these androids shifts the series by a home run, introducing the concept that most threats don't even need to be strong to even be powerful. The Z Fighters even struggle with the androids, and the stakes even increase higher when it's revealed to us that they are something way worse than Frieza during the Namek arc. Dr. Gerosa's true plan is to construct an android capable of surpassing the Z Fighters' strength, Cell. The entire idea was that androids 1920 were the main villains for the android arc until Toriyama's editor didn't really like that idea, and which is why androids 17-18 were born. Anywho, androids 19 and 20's arrival actually gave us information about Cell and his emergence, and it challenges the Z Fighters in a way that they have never thought of before, which helps them strategically figure out how to destroy the androids. The emotional uptake of this part in the story marks a significant change for all of our characters. Goku's health during the battle with Android 19 decides to deteriorate mid-fight, which introduces us to the heart virus that Trunks had stayed before when he had arrived on Earth 3 years prior. The Androids 1920 arc is significant because it puts a force on the characters, especially Goku. The arrival of the androids shifts the dynamics of the series because the characters now face threats they can't beat with moral strength alone. Goku's heart virus is highly unexpected and dramatic in the Cell Saga. It sets challenges for the series' depiction of Goku as the irresistible Saiyan he's portrayed as in the series. The virus is introduced during his fight with Android 19, and it ruins the entire plans for the Z Fighters. Goku's sudden weakness in the midst of battle causes a shift in the dynamic of the arc, really showing how vulnerable he is other than being weak to stronger opponents. Many newer fans of the Dragon Ball series don't really take the heart virus as a big problem because, he's Goku. But this actually becomes a pivotal section in the story. The Z Fighters decide to rely on each other more than ever because Goku isn't around at all to help. The heart virus introduces us to a new level of tension to the story. Goku's health decreases as the Z Fighters just kinda have to sit around and deal with it. Characters like Piccolo and Vegeta stay the same, but yet change in a way to deal with taking on the androids without Goku being present. The heart virus adds depth to the arc because now we don't even know if Goku's gonna die or not. Goku's struggle with the heart virus has an impact on the narrative. It leads to characters like Vegeta, Trunks, and Piccolo to take on the spotlight for a little bit. This shift in the story from Goku's power to the growth of other side characters must now rise to the occasion without Goku. The heart virus, on the other hand, that's an obstacle for Goku, is basically just plot armor for Trunks. Trunks grew up in a world that was destroyed by the androids, must protect the future and prove that he can continue the Saiyan heritage within. Well, I mean, until Super Trunks came around and just basically ruined everything, but Androids 17 and 18 are the most important characters in the Cell Saga by a long shot. Their introduction complexes that dynamic between the Z Fighters and themselves. Unlike Androids 1920, who were basically just weak plot pointers to reveal the newer androids, but were great setups for the emergence of Cell, Androids 17, 18, and 16 have far more depth and complexity. They're powerful, they're cold-blooded killers, and have no care for whatever they please and do whatever they want. But they also have a sense of independence that separates them like other villains. These androids, and especially Android 16, are programmed to tear apart the Z Fighters and kill Goku. They don't necessarily follow an evil path. The most interesting aspects of Android 17-18 is their lack of allegiance. They are not just Dr. Gerosa's creations, rather they are just cruel, independent androids who can choose their own path. This freedom and self-determination is what makes them highly dangerous. They don't follow orders, they just simply act on their own will. It adds an element of what's going to come to the next arc. especially since the Z-Fighters don't even know what's going to come with the androids. The androids with their power makes androids 17 and 18 unstoppable while they go around town committing whatever chaos they can just to kill the Z-Fighters and get to Goku. However, as the arc progresses, the androids start to grow a little soft on the Z-Fighters. Android 18 particularly grows a transformation, shifting from the heartless killer to a more cocky character. Her interactions with Krillin really show that she ultimately does have feelings and isn't just a lifeless android. The emotional development is one of the key factors that sets this arc farther apart from other earlier arcs in Dragon Ball Z. Toriyama brings a fresh, compelling factor to the arc's narrative. The androids are not just threats, but mostly just misunderstood characters who change the Z-Fighters' understanding of morality, purpose, and overall destiny. The battle between Vegeta, Trunks, and Big Lip Cell marks a turning point in the Cell Saga. In both character development and action, Vegeta, who had been overly confident in surpassing Goku, decided to face off against Cell as Super Vegeta, which is probably one of the most badass fights in Dragon Ball Z history. Now, this fight is really important because it shows the internal struggles that he and Trunks went through in the hyperbolic time chamber. He's fighting for dominance and is also flexing Super Vegeta, but then all of that gets ruined when Cell absorbs Android 18 and becomes perfect and just destroys Vegeta's pride right then and there. Trunks, Vegeta's son, also plays a crucial role in this fight, experiencing the destruction of his world in the future, which was destroyed by the androids. He becomes motivated to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. His determination to protect the future proves his strength and drives him to fight against Cell. The father-son dynamic in this battle adds a badass layer to the confrontation. Despite Trunks' youth, he surpasses Super Saiyan and goes into grades 2 and 3. Same thing with Vegeta. He even learns that his father's mistakes before Cell became perfect. He shows growth, and in this fight, it is even a defining moment for Trunks. He steps up to protect the future, not only as Vegeta's son, but also as a fighter. The Vegeta and Trunks vs. Cell battle serves as a standpoint for the fights that will follow, then eventually leading to Super Saiyan 2 with Gohan. Even though Vegeta and Trunks fail to defeat Cell, it highlights the debut of Cell's perfect form. This battle serves as a reminder that the Z-Fighters will statistically have to learn how far they must push their limits to defeat the one and the only perfect Cell. The Cell Games is probably one of the most important tournaments in the franchise other than the Tournament of Power and the Budokai tournaments. It serves as a test for the Z-Fighters and everything they've worked for throughout the saga. Cell, now fully in his perfect form, goes to a new station and declares his challenge for the world, demanding that the strongest of the strong face him in a battle that decides the fate of the Earth. This tournament becomes a spectacle not only for the characters but also for the audience who are watching this story commence. As the Cell Games are broadcasted globally across the world, this sets attention and overall problems within the story. The games represent a test of strength, resolve, and even sacrifice for the Z-Fighters, and lose the hero that was once the main savior of this franchise. What makes the Cell Games so impactful is the emotional impact it is involved with. It's not just about fighting, it's about protecting the Earth and the saving of the potential future. The event forces the Z-Fighters to confront the possibility of failure and losing everything they protected Earth for. For Goku, this is one of the most risky fights for him, deciding if Earth lives or not, and serves as a humble challenge in his life. The Cell Games provide the characters to test their limit and to prove their worth, not just to the world, but to themselves. The Z-Fighters cross their fingers knowing if they lose, everything they fought for will be gone. Goku's decision to forfeit is one of the most dramatical turns for this arc in the Cell Games, as it marks a shift for his character. Goku, for years, had been the steering wheel behind every battle, always enjoying his love for fighting and striving to keep on training and saving his friends and his own world. Goku's decision to forfeit passes the Olympic torch to Gohan, showing that Toriyama did everything he hoped for with Goku. Gohan is the new protector of Earth and symbolizes the growth of the legacy his father had left behind. It's a moment of realization that makes the reader realize that Goku is done. He doesn't want to be the reason the villains show up to Earth. So with all of that, Cell decides to self-destruct, and Goku decides to man up and sacrifice his life to show that he has grown, as not a mentor, but a father. This is it, the final showdown between the most powerful characters currently in the series. Son Gohan, the new protector of Earth, and the villainous Perfect Cell. Gohan's battle with Cell is a huge turning point for his character. It marks the growth we've seen from the very start of the series, once a scared little rascal to a powerful warrior that doesn't give up. At the start of the series, he was always an overshadow of his father since the battle with Raditz. Gohan had hidden power that even Goku and Piccolo saw when training him. However, though the events of the Cell Saga and his experience with the androids, Gohan's potential was unlocked. He transforms into a Super Saiyan 2 after watching Android 16 getting his head crushed by Cell. This transformation isn't really a result of physical training or power-ups. It is driven out of him from emotional pain and trauma. In the midst of the fight, Cell underestimates the young Saiyan, believing that Gohan is weak and is unmatched for him. But that all changes as he realizes Gohan's inner strength emerges as the driving force behind his overwhelming power. The battle itself is a devastating display of energy and sacrifice. Gohan pushing Cell to his limits. The turning point comes when Cell releases a Kamehameha that is destined to defeat Gohan. But with the power of his father's spirit and the dedication to help the ones he loves most, he fires one last Kamehameha with a broken right arm and defeats Cell. Gohan's victory isn't just a victory for himself. It's morally a victory for the world, unlocking his potential and rightfully taking his place as the new savior of Earth. Cell's defeat at the hands of Gohan marks the end of a long, hard-fought battle, but it also signals the road of Goku's place coming to an end. Goku's calmness and mentorship in the Cell Saga, and even his decision to forfeit so Cell could take on Gohan, reveals his growth as a father and a mentor. He acknowledges that Gohan is capable of saving the world without him, and this changes the overall theme of the series. The shift from Goku to Gohan symbolizes the passing of the torch to the next generation.